Hello again. Here we are. And we want to talk today about symptoms. When we have a symptom, is that good news or is that bad news? I think it's really good news.
Yeah, lots of times symptoms, well, they're inconvenient, right? They mean we've got to kind of stop and check something out. And I was thinking about it this morning, and it's kind of like the symptom is kind of like an early warning system to tell us there's something a little out of balance and to give it some attention. Not unlike, the check engine light
Yeah,
in your car.
yeah,
You
very
know,
similar.
it can be terribly inconvenient, but is it good news or bad news? Probably good news to let us know that there's something going on behind the scenes that needs addressing.
Yeah, I think the best way to share our experience is to share what's happened in our lives. The first thing that occurred for me was a very large fibroid tumor. Now, what might that be pointing to? And that caused me to go deeper into understanding the power of how food could heal. And I went to Optimum Health in San Diego, and in 2 weeks, that tumor had shrunk from the size of a big cantaloupe down to the size of an egg,
And that was
just by eating raw food and wheatgrass juice.
a major shift in the diet. And it shrunk from that large size to that small size in 2 weeks after her having been trying to adjust something in her life for a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. After the diagnosis, they basically just said, well, let's just take everything out, a full hysterectomy. And it's like, let me see if I can support my body to heal it.
Yeah, and I went all the alternative routes. I didn't focus on food first. So I saw a lot of different people, nothing helped. And then I went to the food, what would you call it, avenue, and really looked what food could support this to shrink. And what does that say about the way I'm eating? Now, I was eating organic, healthy, mostly macrobiotic food. You'd think that would make a
Yeah.
huge
No
difference.
processed foods. I mean, it was all whole foods.
Yeah, but it was only in going to raw, which is so healing, and juicing at Optimum Health that, whoa, there was a big
Mm.
difference. So it showed me that the power in food is immense if I'm willing to really look there and make the shift.
Yeah, that story brings up a good point about our bodies and our capacity to restore health because a symptom is usually showing us that there's an imbalance. Doesn't mean the system's broken, doesn't mean the body's broken. It just means there's an imbalance. The check engine lights come on. So it's like, we're low on oil or tire pressure is low, whatever these different early warnings are showing us. And so lots of times with the people we work with and in our own lives, we see that the way to address the symptom is by changing something in our diet and lifestyle. But in Connie's case, she had a very healthy lifestyle. This, we believe, came out of some past eating issues
That weren't so healthy, and
that weren't
lots
so
of
healthy.
coffee, by the way,
Yeah,
strong coffee.
yeah. And so it kind of set up this condition where she, developed a fibroid tumor. The nice thing is that when the check engine light comes on, usually I have to take it to the mechanic and say, okay, figure it out, fix it. The neat thing about our bodies is that we've got all these mechanics built in. So if it's not just a matter of changing diet and lifestyle in some way, that's kind of creating the problem, but it's really addressing something that is built up over time, then we can use food and lifestyle things like maybe doing some juice fasting or something like that to facilitate these little inner mechanics, these little guys that get in there and fix things that are kind of tweaked to help our bodies come back to that full optimal functioning.
Yeah, it's so amazing. The body is designed to heal itself if we give it what it needs. And symptoms are the little tap on the shoulder saying something's not right here. You need to look carefully and see what shifting can bring. And it certainly did in my case in that instance. What about you?
Well, let me just say one thing about symptoms that you're pointing out there too, is that symptoms, our bodies only have so many warning devices. It's like it says check engine light. What is that? Is that oil? Is that water temperature? Is that, what is it? So you've got the check engine light. It's like a headache, let's say. It can be caused from dehydration, an impacted colon. It can be caused by fatigue. So you get the symptom, the light comes on, and you don't necessarily know exactly what the cause is. So what we're about, of course, is helping the body restore its health. We need to address the cause, not just try and address the symptom, which is what so many therapies and medications are about. Get the headache to go away and not really address the cause. So in having a symptom, the good news is it says I've got an imbalance. I need to check something out. We need to then figure out what is the cause. It's not just a one-to-one. It's not like headache is always this, and shoulder pain is always that, and sore throat is always that. So there's some exploring that needs to be done. And so how do you usually go about something like that?
Well, the first thing I do is I go to the web and I look up the symptoms, what might be causing them. And then I look at what food may I have been eating that created an imbalance. And I check to make sure I'm getting enough sleep, that I'm getting enough good, clean, filtered water, and that I'm getting enough exercise. And if all those things are in place, it's food. So I look at what I'm eating more carefully and start dropping things that may be the cause of the symptoms and see what happens. You know what's so interesting is since eating whole food, plant-based, oil and salt and sugar-free, that is so important. I just feel great every day. There's no pain anywhere. We never get sick. It's like the body's meant to give us this ultimate life experience if we support it to be healthy, to heal itself by the way we eat and live.
And I'll give you a little tip in terms of exploring the web for causes. We've been Googling it for years because, Google's a great search engine and it brings a lot up. I found that I would always be reading 2 or 3 different pages because they had different opinions and this and that. And it took quite a bit of time. What I'm doing now, it's so cool. I'm using ChatGTP. I use the free version. And, I can type in something like, what are common causes for a headache? And it will read sometimes thousands of pages or access thousands of pages and summarize it so quickly and easily. So that's been the latest
shortcut
search engine for me. It's been really, really wonderful. Yeah. So I wanted to say one other thing too about symptoms, and is it good news or bad news? They can be really inconvenient, but like the check engine light, I was thinking and remembering an experience that a friend of mine had. She was going to see her parents, and just before she got to their place, there was like a long hill, like a mile-long hill on the freeway, just before she would get off and go there. And at the bottom of the hill, the check engine light came on. And it's like, oh, that's inconvenient. I'm so close to home, and my dad's a good mechanic. I'm less than a mile away. I'm just gonna, get there, and he can deal with it. She got halfway up the hill, and the engine stopped. It was out of oil. She burned the engine up.
Wow.
So as inconvenient as it would have been to stop at the bottom of the hill, it's good to pay attention.
Yes, very important. Very, very important.
Yeah, so that we don't get to the point where we do damage and it takes a major overhaul. That old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. When that check engine light comes on, you're a lot closer to the ounce of prevention. And do what you can to avoid the pound of cure, because that was my situation. You've heard the story before, I'm sure, if you've listened to us very long, but when I met Connie, I was in so much arthritic pain and asked numbers of professionals, medical doctors, physiotherapists, chiropractors, is there anything I should do to relieve this pain? I was playing volleyball competitively and it was interfering with my game. It was an inconvenience. And they were giving me supplements and exercises, and it really wasn't doing much. But it was the best they had to offer. And they all said it has nothing to do with food. So this is back in the early 80s. And so I meet Connie, and she sees I'm eating so much dairy. I was lacto-vegetarian. And she said, well, what do you think about dropping the dairy? Because she understood the link between dairy and inflammation. It's a very inflammatory food.
Very.
So arthritic pain doesn't necessarily mean inflammation. Probably has that as basis, but it's like that was a place to start. And so drop the dairy, and in 2 weeks, it's like 60% gone. So, I'd had that symptom for some time. The check engine light was on. I was checking with everybody I knew, and nobody seemed to know until I met her. What a good fortune that was.
And then for me, as I've shared before, I had a mini stroke. Well, I was eating whole food, plant-based, so clean, all organic food. What could this be? And that's where I went deeper, learned more about the impact of salt and oil in clogging arteries. And we were making our own ghee and using it, I thought, carefully, but more than the body needed, and far more saturated fat than the body needed. So in dropping that, the blood pressure went right down to normal. It took a little time, but there's another example of how a symptom is a real guiding light to healing if I'm willing to really pay attention and go deeper into the food that might be creating it, or the lifestyle that might be creating it. So now I feel just fabulous. And yeah, I'm really grateful. And I see again the power of food to support the body to heal. It's immense.
Yeah, so symptoms, they're always good news. Often inconvenient. You get that diagnosis, high blood pressure. Oh, change my diet. Oh, but really, in the long term, it's a blessing.
And the recipe today is so yummy. It's a Thai cauliflower fried rice, and it uses fresh mango, beautiful ingredients, some cashews, and a peanut butter dressing.
Yeah, it's called a fried rice. There's no rice in it. It's riced cauliflower, so it's a nice, really light veggie dish that's just fabulous.
Yeah,
Very
it's really
satisfying.
tasty.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thanks for joining us.